Thank you for
Okay.
coming. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Extra Feature. To have a fabulous guest. This film's from 2013, so I'm sure everybody out there has seen it by now. Canyon Road's the name of the film. Calix Reneau is here. Welcome.
Howdy. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm excited to be doing this.
So, this film came out in 2013, and I'm going to go a little background between us. I just discovered it through you posting on a group we're in.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was actually shot in 2013. It wasn't really released until 2023 or 24, I think.
Okay,
Uh,
so it's still a generally new film then.
it is a generally new film. I had some roadblocks on several projects finally come free in 2023, 24, and so it's one of the films that got out there at that time, which I'm glad because it's an interesting little film, I think.
Can
Um,
we discuss some of the roadblocks, or you can't let me in there?
I can let you in there.
Okay,
Yeah, basically well, let me tell you how it came about first.
perfect.
I was having a meeting on another project with another friend of mine. So I have a friend, Ivan, who is the star and producer of Canyon Road, and he and I were meeting to talk with somebody else about another project. And while we're waiting at the restaurant, he says, "Oh, by the way, I have a project in my, I have an idea for a movie that I'd love to make." And he said, "Okay, pitch it to me." And he pitches me basically what became Canyon Road. And I said, "Well, that's very doable. It's, as you know, it's literally two characters, one location for most of it. There's a little bit else going on, but it's two characters in one location." I'm like, "Yeah, I need a car, I need a soundstage, I need two actors. You're one of them because you want to do this as for your own acting."
Fair
He
enough.
and he had Roxanne in mind, who was a wonderful actor who I got to meet in the film. Like, okay, we have everything we need. And one of the things I've learned as a movie maker, I said, "You want to know how to make this movie?" He goes, "Sure." I said, "Take out your phone, pick a date in the next 6 weeks." And he picked a date, and I'm like, "That's the day we're shooting." He said, "Wait, we
Ah!
don't." He said, "We don't have a script." I guess, well, we better get a script together. And so we actually shot about 2 months after that, because putting things together. But that's how it came together. Then we went into post. We had sound issues because there's always sound issues. And he owned the film. We got it done after about a year and a half, and he just sat on it. I kept saying, "Are we going to release it?" And he didn't want to release it. And then in 2022-ish, just after COVID, or towards the end of COVID, had some other projects, films that were also, suddenly people said they'd release them. Said, "Ivan, let's release it. It's done. It's been done for a decade." So we finally gave him permission, and now it's out there, and you've seen it, and we're talking about it.
Okay, I want to back up just a time. Why did he
Okay.
give you a reason why he sat on it?
Um, Not really. I mean, after a while, you stop pushing. It's just
No, I
I
understand you, but I mean, this is you as a director. I mean, you
writer
need
director.
projects
Yeah,
to make money. Let's be
yeah,
honest. That's the way
right.
directors work. People
Yep,
see your work. Hey, I like your work.
yep.
Let's do something together. But if I mean, you say, well, I directed this film and it's in a box for 10 years, people are like, why is it in the box?
And honestly, for I've had several films that happened with. And each of them, they would explain things to me. He wanted to do more sound work on it, which we did. And then eventually he decided to go a different direction with his career. Now he's living in Nebraska as a financial advisor with his family and his kids, and he's very happy. And I think that's why he finally said he'd release it, because he decided, well, it's not part of my life anymore, so he let it go. That's what I
Okay, I
assume. I
accept
like
that. It's
Ivan. I
just,
thought he did really good work on it. It was a really
so
fun
do
film to
I.
shoot. Yeah.
I so you just told me at the beginning the film is all on a soundstage. That was one of my questions.
Mostly on a soundstage. We did shoot. Um, the rain sequence was on a soundstage. When the
Right.
driving sequence, obviously, we went out and shot. Waited
Obviously.
for waited for a rainy day in Los Angeles. So that was
Ooh,
that was part of the
that,
post production,
that could be a problem.
trying to find that, which it rains eventually. But it's like a year of waiting while we're doing post. And um we shot the in-car driving. We thought, let's do it green screen on a soundstage. You've been doing, plates and rear projection and all that forever. How hard can it be? And that was actually much harder than I expected. Our DP, who I still work with, I just did a short film with Dan Ayers. First feature I worked on with him. He's probably the one of the biggest names that I generally work with. He's working with Jim Cameron on Avatar, on all the Avatar
Wow.
movies now. Yeah, in fact, like the short that we just shot like 3 weeks ago, we had to postpone to that point because he's like, "Hey, can't shoot this weekend." Jim's called me in. I'm like, "Someday I'm going to be at a party. I'm just going to punch him in the face, and he's not going to know why because he's delayed so many of my projects."
Fair
What?
enough.
What, you gonna do Avatar instead of my short film? What are your priorities?
What's going on there? I'm your friend.
Right. But that was the first feature I worked on. Some of the technical errors, I will share this with some inside baseball stuff for anybody who's going to be ever making movies. I wanted the inside because it takes place in a car buried under a landslide for the most part, and I wanted it to have a dark look to it. And Dan, being experienced, said, okay, the darker you want it, the more light you have to throw at it. And I'm watching the
Really?
monitor. Yeah, and I'm watching the monitors, and I'm like, it doesn't look good with all that light. No, we're gonna cut some lights. And I'm like, okay. Because basically what happens is you have to have the contrast and the dynamic range so that when you darken it, it stays sharp, it stays clear,
Right.
and it still works. Whereas, there are some shots in it, like when she first wakes up, spoiler, that looks really muddy to me now, and that's the reason it looks muddy is because we didn't have enough light in it. So all of the blacks was supposed to be black, wasn't black. It was just no data there, which comes across as gray. Little inside baseball stuff. So he's done a lot. Like he was a camera on the entire run of CSI New York, and he did all their green screen work and all of their um, 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 steady cam work, and he was an A camera on that. Um, and so that we got Dan, so it was well lit for green screen. And we could control the rain. We did artificial rain inside the studio. It was actual real water coming down. Um, but I didn't realize how, even for that simple little bit of CGI to get it to look not horrible. We ended up in that it's an 8 minute sequence, and there's 133 plates we had to get made. And it literally took, we had to find, because it's a low budget film, we ended up, our post supervisor found 6 different people to do CGI to lay in on the green screen. You have to match it and make it the right size and all that stuff. It literally took 6 people 6 months from around the world doing remote work just to
Wow.
do that background in it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that again. That was harder than I was going to film in a car. But anyway, so yeah,
Okay.
back to your question. Yes, sorry, I was just
Now
wandering off on that.
we're on the sound stage and it's
Yes,
dark. Is there? I want to know how you shoot this because it's all dark. I want people to know that this takes place for literally in a car.
it takes place
So
literally in a car.
do you have a tarp on the car or is
So
that
it was
all
actually
lighting?
well, it was a lot of fun to do. One of the things that we did, we got the car. It was a used car I got from my mechanic. Barely ran, but it worked for us for what we needed. What we actually did, because if you'll notice when they shine the lights on the window, you can see the dirt and the mud
Yes.
in those shots. And so literally what we did was covered every window with just plastic and then filled the
Okay.
plastic with dirt. So like all of the windows were covered, but you can open the doors. And we took the front window off the car because we didn't need it. And so a
Thought
lot of it
so.
is shot, not yeah, it's shot from the hood of the car on a slider and from cameras on the outside. And then we'd open the door to get shots this way or that way. In the back, basically because it was a car in a controlled situation, we could open up where we couldn't where we weren't. We're shooting this way. We can bring in light from this way by opening up the car this way, and then we swing it around. We can shoot that way. That's how we did it.
So was the car on something you could turn then?
No, no, no. It
This
was we did not put the car on a gimbal because that was not likely to happen. We did. I did. We built a kind of platform. We did it safely where the car was, sitting up and at an angle because that's
hmm
what it was, and that's how we got that particular effect. We literally put that car at that angle. Um, and we left it. We left it up like that for the entire shoot because it was secure and like we took doors off when we needed to, took glass out when we needed to, uncovered windows as we needed to, covered them back up. That's how we did it.
So how did you find shooting? I mean, I don't want to say the film is stagnant because it's not in any way.
Right.
But you are literally shooting straight a lot of the time.
Yeah, and
Are
it
you
was
using a
it.
multi-camera angle on me? Because it looks straight, but it's always a different shot to me.
Yeah, it is. We shot multicam. We shot two or three camera as we could. Dan was running the camera that was on the hood of the car. We had a slider where he's going back and forth and looking at
That's what I
things.
was looking for.
And then we have the angles on that. And it was interesting because we did very long takes. We're doing like 5, 10 minute takes on this. We're doing like entire chunks of it. And we'll do it all from one angle on one of the actors. We're working it out. And so we're like doing, 30 pages over a course of a couple of days. Then we'll set up for the next one. And so I knew we had the problem like you're talking about the it is literally it's two people sitting in a car
Yeah,
talking for 80 minutes, and the way I describe it is every independent filmmaker makes the kitchen table drama where the couple's trying to decide if they're going to stay together or break up or not. And that's literally this movie, except
yep.
for they're buried under a landslide dying while they're
You're
having that
correct. You're
conversation.
correct.
Right. And I knew that I've actually watched it with audiences and watched it with people who didn't know anything about it and didn't really know me. And it keeps their attention. Part of the reason of that is that I have a great villain in this movie, which is the landslide itself. I got to do the sound design. Just a quick story about that. We're in post audio, and at one point I go to Home Depot and get a big 4x4 sheet of 1/8 inch steel. And we go in and we put a mic on it, and I put some rosin on my finger, and I'm just literally making these little rubbing noses on this big steel. So we get those groans and creaks of that. And I remember I spent 4 hours doing that. And I remember thinking while I was doing that, when I was a kid watching TV and I learned about Foley, I thought, wow, that's such a cool job. I want to do practical Foley one day. Like here I am actually doing the voice of the landslide. And anytime it felt like in the script or in the production or in post that the conversation was getting a little overwhelming between I want to break up with you, are we going to be together, that sort of stuff. We introduce elements like, oh wait, now there's water flooding in. Oh wait, now there's a snake here. Oh wait, now there's, we have to get you out of here. You're going to die. That sort of thing. And so I could always up the stakes by going back to the villain, which was the landslide that was going to kill them or trying to kill them.
Okay, you brought up the snake.
Yeah.
Was the snake real? I'm saying yes.
The
But then,
snake, yes and no. Yes, it was both.
well, there's two
Basic,
snakes, I think. And the one snake I want to discuss later,
right?
and the snake in the car, I think it's real.
Both snakes are real. It's the same snake, actually. The snake at the end
Really?
is the same snake. Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
we bought a snake. It's a corn snake, like a king rat corn snake or something like that. And our sound, I don't know anything about snakes. Our sound guy
Neither do
like,
I.
oh, I want a snake. Okay, we'll buy it for production, then you can keep it. And there were shots where it wasn't safe for the snake kind of thing. And so
Right, I understand.
we have a fake snake, but we also have a real snake. And actually, the snake used to be on the wall, but it's not. I moved it somewhere. It was hanging on my door back there. That one of the snakes was a rope that was colored with a piece of rope with the wire through it that was colored with a.
Is that the one when he's wrapping it around himself?
No, actually, I think the one that's around himself is the live one when he's holding it.
Okay,
I'd have to go back and look. It cuts back and forth.
that's fine.
It's not
It's just
consistent.
more for personal interest than anything
That's
else.
how we did it. Yeah.
Okay, the bar location.
In the bar location, we shot in Santa Monica. A friend of us had it, let us have it. And it opens up the story ever so slightly. That's also where we had the driving at the beginning, is to give some sort of air and space to it. And the bar location, yeah, like I said, I don't remember who. I think Ivan had a friend who owned the bar, and it was on a day that they were closed. And we just went there and shot. Um,
I
I
mean, I know
love
it
that.
was a few years ago, so I can't hold you
Yeah.
to too much.
Mm. So yeah, that was so we shot that in Santa Monica. I don't know how much you know about filmmaking in Los Angeles, especially on the independent level. Most people don't know there's 88 cities in Los Angeles County. Some of them are
Okay.
pretty easy to shoot in. Some of them you don't want to do anything without a permit. Like you really got to follow all the rules. Santa Monica can be a little bit strict. The person we were waiting to meet when when he first pitched this to me, um, is a Leo. He's law enforcement. And we had him come visit set that day to hang out just in case, because he was our, if anybody comes in, he would talk to them. That didn't happen, but it was cool that he was willing to do that.
Where's the canyon?
It's actually, it was it Malibu Canyon Road, which is where the exterior canyons are shot. Um, when we shot the some of the rain sequences, just driving in the rain, I that time I had a Nissan was it 300 SX little sports car, and a friend of mine sat in the back with the back open, and we're driving through it while he's filming, getting soaking wet. So some of the rain shot is that, but that's officially the canon where we the road we were thinking about. Um, it not a specific canyon in any sort of way, but if it was, it'd be Malibu Canyon Road.
How many days did you shoot this for? 'Cause those actors don't get to move much, so I was just more worried
Yeah,
about them.
yeah, we shot it like it was a 3 week shoot, I think,
Okay.
all told. And yes, they get out of the car and
No, of course they do, but I felt bad for them because I mean, you can tell it's long takes. I'm not even
right,
going to argue it. I
right,
can see the edits just because I watch way too much film, but
right,
I'm like, these are long takes.
right,
Every time you start a new topic, I know that's an edit, and then
mhm,
it's just a speech. I'm like, oh my God, I felt bad for these actors. There's
right,
no
right.
edits here.
Well, then I say there is a lot of cuts in it, and one of the nice things about the way this film came together, the way we shot it, it is long takes, but it's not like the actors had to be spot on perfect for like the 5 or 10 minutes that were wrong. Nice thing
Right.
about digital is you can run for 10 minutes and we could go, okay, wait a minute. Okay, take that back, go back 2 lines and let's take that again. And we could play with that. And that actually gave the actors freedoms to play with some things within the context. Because as you know, if you're building something and each take is 2 sentences and you're getting all that perfect, then you move on to something else. I think it's actually harder to maintain a context for the actors in that regard. Whereas if they're doing the whole thing, they just did the 2 minutes before that, so they know where they're at emotionally if we're making adjustments.
Music. You have a lot of different music here. It just sort of comes at random times.
Right.
Not to say it doesn't work, it just shows up.
There's actually very little music in it. The music
Three or
is
four songs, I think.
so well. There's the opening song was at the party, which is kind of
Yes.
a technical thing. By the way, I wrote all of it, so
Oh, there you
almost all of
go.
it. So, and then there's the radio station as he's flipping through.
Yes.
And then there are two pieces that are basically act transitions. The end of Act One, well, the end of Act One going into Act Two is a landslide, if I recall, and then uh, there are two transitions between acts, and in both of those, I there's a piece of transitional music, which is the only underscore there is. The closing song, which I did not write, Michael Bluestein wrote and recorded for us, and he's the keyboardist. This is a terrible mistake to make. Journey or Foreigner, which is it he's playing for? I got to look it up real quick. Sorry. Eek. Um, he's been with touring keyboards with them forever. Uh, Foreigner. He's been Foreigner since 2008. So it was a Foreigner when he wrote that song for us. And
Wow.
yeah. Yep. And
Okay, starting a band question. Who do you pick?
for what?
Your band question? Starting a band.
Starting a band. Oh my
You knew
God.
this was coming. It's
I
definitely
didn't
new
know it's I
music.
completely forgot. I was like, what is he talking about? Oh. So, geez, that's interesting. I'm actually starting a band right now, so the people I'm working with, I would like to call them out. I'm doing music with my son and an actor I did I was who's in a sitcom pilot I did last year. Um, it's really yeah, you caught me off guard on that one.
Sorry, it's in the film, so I'm pulling stuff out
It
of
is,
it
it
for
is
you.
in the film. It is in the film. I like I like Bono as a singer. I
Sure.
like him as a songwriter. I like him as a person from everything that I know. Um, you know, first guitarist that comes to mind would be Clapton, which is a terrible choice because he's Clapton and he's not going to really be he's going to be doing his thing and not the band thing, even though he did Cream
True. That is
and
true.
Derek and the Dominoes and stuff, but he's been Clapton forever. Um,
That's
you
fine.
know, I like a band that I've been really or a duo band. I've really been digging Lark and Poe, and I'd love to work with them. I just absolutely love to play piano with them. I play keyboards. Love to play with them at some point. I don't know if you know them or not.
I do not.
They're a female duo out of Georgia. They do a very Southern rock inspired modern thing. One plays steel and sings, the other plays a lap steel and sings harmony, and they're amazing. Larkin Post. Yeah, them. I want them in my band.
Perfect. Also in the film is discussed, is a ring a true value of marriage? It does come up, and I thought that was an interesting question. It made me think.
Um, so everything in my life is weird.
Fair
Um,
enough. That's allowed.
I've been married twice to the same woman. I'm still married to her now. We were married, we got divorced. 10 years later, we got remarried.
I've
Uh,
heard that happen before. Don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah. I do have my earlier rings were on a nail on the wall from the first time we were married, and my wife wanted to get a ring with a Jewish scripture on it, so that's what I wear now.
That's fine.
It's an it's an important element if it's important to both people. If it's important to one person, it's an important element that you need to deal with. It's not you can have lifelong healthy relationships without marriage. I think it's harder to do. I think the more having this on my finger um helps me behave now better than I did the first time around. You can say that.
I think that's a fair answer. I don't think that's in it. So, as a filmmaker, you shot this in 2013,
Yep.
and it gets released in 2024 or 2023, and now
Right.
you're shopping it.
Right.
How does that feel? Like, does it all come back to you, or do you forget things, or you just leave
I
it?
forget. I haven't watched it in a very long time. You know, when I'm proud of all my children. I'm proud of all the projects I do. I'm aware
Right.
of their flaws. I've read some criticism because, I'm still stupid enough to do that of it.
No.
And some of it, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I if I had a chance to go back to 2014 in post, I know how I would fix the audio problems better, which would probably have kept Ivan happier with it. But um, I'm like I said, I'm proud that it holds an audience's attention because it is a risky thing to do, Two people sitting in a car talking for 85 minutes. How do I make that work so that people aren't checking out? And not everything's to everybody's taste, but there's been audiences who've stuck with it and are like, wow, they've enjoyed it.
Okay. You wrote with somebody named Jennifer Still. She hasn't
Jennifer
come up.
Still,
So
yes,
let's bring her up. How did you meet her, and how was the writing process?
Jennifer Still. It actually may have been on Canyon Road that I met her. Jennifer Still, when I first met her, was an executive over at AFTRA. This is pre-SAG AFTRA. And I was talking to her, actually may have been this project. We were talking about, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it after, we're going to do it SAG because it was before the merger. And we found out that she's like, oh, I've been with AFTRA for like 15 years. I want to leave AFTRA. And I want to go to my dream, which is directing and filming directing and producing movies. I'm like, well, hey. And she also said at the time, she said, I'm working with these partners and we're opening up a new soundstage. And I'm like, I need a soundstage. Can we use the soundstage if you want to co-direct it and co-write it? I'm very collaborative. I love being collaborative. It doesn't hurt my feelings to co-direct, co-write.
There you
Um,
go. That was my next question right there.
the collaborative part of filmmaking is my favorite part. My favorite thing is being on set and discovery with the cast and the crew and everybody I'm working with, just figuring this thing out and pulling it together. I love doing that. And so she came on board. We co-wrote it, obviously very quickly. I think we knocked it out in 2 or 3 weeks. Except for the writing process that goes on through production and then through post that you have to do. But
Obviously.
yeah, going into production, and I am going to tell a story on her because it's kind of fun. So at one point, Roxanne the character's crying, and
Yep.
Roxanne can do it naturally, but after a while you run out of tears. So we're also using artificial tears. And Jennifer, who co-directed it, is also putting the tears in. She's working with the actor on that. And she comes to find out that Roxanne has this slight phobia about things near her eyes. And so she doesn't like things being poked in her eyes and stuff. So she's like, doing the eye drops. And so Jennifer decides to start putting in eye drops more often to heighten her sense of uncomfort as an actor for the performance. And Jennifer told me later, she said, I can't believe this. My job for 15 years was protecting actors. Been a director for 3 days and I'm already torturing them to get a performance.
Well,
So,
that's the director's job. I
yeah,
hate to
right.
say that,
Yeah,
but you need a certain performance. I mean, it's just the way it goes. It's like me. I
right.
got to needle you to answer questions, and I want answered if you don't want to answer them. Similar kind of thing. The end credit scene, was that added afterwards, or was that always part of it?
It was, I don't remember exactly when we came up with it. I'm sure it was during production. Um, um, we knew that we had to shoot the exterior scene just before the landslide. So we had to go on location to do that. And the location that we got was some property up in the hills that a friend owned. And so we were also going to shoot that, the ending scene. Part of it was trying to figure out throughout the process, and I think this one we did figure out before we shot it, but it was fairly like the day before kind of thing. Is does she survive? Does he survive? Do they both survive? Do neither of them survive? And we ended up with the ending that we have, which I think pays off really, really well. And then we had the snake, and it's like, okay, so what happens after this? And yeah, I got to play the goofy metal detector guy finding things, and then the snake, and then that cross is also around here somewhere from that. It was shot during production. It was not added on in post because we shot it in the same time we shot that the rock slide scene.
Do you find, okay,
Okay.
you're at a screening. Do most people leave before the end credits?
Uh Not at a screening, like not at a festival or a
Well,
you
that's what I
know
was wondering.
yeah, not at a screening. I go to the movies all the time. I'm going to see two movies tomorrow. I love going to movies, and sometimes I'll stay through the end credits, sometimes I won't. I have always liked, like, all of my end credits just have a ton of stuff in it. I enjoy doing that. And so, and it doesn't really, in this case, it doesn't hurt or help the film all that much.
Oh, I disagree.
Okay. Tell
I
me why.
needed that, and I had such a question to myself at the end of the film. I'm like, I'm going
Nice.
to stay in the end. I wanted to know the answer. I was pretty sure I had my answer.
Right,
The
right.
end credits solidified my answer, I will
Okay.
say,
Okay,
but I
cool.
wasn't 100% positive.
Okay. Okay.
Because
Then
I
I'm
mean,
glad I did it. It
I
was
don't
fun to
mean to
do.
be rude. I mean, we're dealing with a very small budget,
Yes.
and you can't really show me much. So I kind of have to assume something at the end.
Right, right,
And the
right.
way it
And
ends, I kind of just sort of said, okay.
yeah,
And
and
I guess I'm going to get in trouble with an interview. Not liking these two people by the end of the film, I did not, I just will honestly say, I did not enjoy these people. I would
right.
not want to be my friends.
Okay. That
You
and that
know?
that is totally, and what I was going to say, what's interesting is that there are people who complain about the film. They say, "Oh, he's misogynistic and he's an asshole and he's a jerk." And I'm like, "You thought he was the hero of the film? I think it's pretty
No,
obvious."
I think it's, I don't like either of them, to be honest
Okay.
with you. I would say
Okay.
I don't like either of them by the end.
And that
And
is
there's nothing wrong with that. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not
that
saying it's
perfect
bad
that
acting. They
yeah,
did
that's
their
perfectly
job.
fair. And it's interesting because I'm working on a project right now in which I like I like taking angles that aren't expected in my
Perfect.
work.
I enjoy
And
that.
well, yeah, I enjoy it too, but I'm working on a project right now that where we're going to be taking it. I'm moving into the vertical space, and I don't know if you watch much vertical, and it's like, okay, this has
Yeah,
to be soap opera on the nose, and we have to make
good.
things incredibly clear, and these characters have to be this way. And I want to play around with that. I love casting against type. I love, like I said, twists in the stories. This was obviously not cast against type. It was Ivan and his friend did it. That's that was what was brought to me. But if you go watch my movie Child, which is also on Tubi, that would be an example. That's insane. Speaking of independent no budget films, I made a magical realism romantic comedy with musical numbers and no stars
I love
on
it.
no budget. Yeah,
I
so it's
have to
like
say
it's
this.
it's called Child, which I thought was a clever title, but if you look up the word child on Tubi, it's like the 50th one down.
I'll
Child's
find it.
Play. Yeah.
I'll
So,
find
but
it. Don't worry.
there's a lot of casting against type there. And going into the vertical space, it's like, okay, I can't deal with issues of gender identity, which I like to play with. I can't deal with
Nothing.
all that. I can't do that. So generally speaking, I do like, you know, unexpected twists and turns. I didn't dislike her character. Obviously he was an asshole, and
Yes.
I think he is. I think the twist at the end and his reaction to it is as close to a redemption as he could ever come, which also is why it answers that question.
Yes. I'm with you. I'll give
Right.
that
It
to you.
answers that question on who survives and who doesn't,
I'm not
because
answering. Watch the film.
right. No, I said that anyway,
Yeah.
blah.
I
Not
agree.
spoilers, stop it. Yeah. So yeah. No, they're not. I didn't hate her as much as you did. I
Oh,
found her
definitely didn't like her. We'll get it. We'll have that discussion another time.
okay.
It's about the ring. There's a whole about taking off the wedding ring. That pissed me off. So that's
Right.
where I'm going. Okay. We got to wrap this up. So I'm sorry. Your favorite
No
film?
worries. My favorite film, Last Temptation of Christ.
Great film.
Yep.
Favorite decade of film?
Mm. Terrible answer. I like all of them. I like whenever
That's fine.
anybody's well, whenever he says no, they don't make movies like they do anymore, and then they mention like 7 films across 15 years. I'm like, dude, you can do that for any 15-year period. And I've
I
always
agree.
said I would take not last COVID years have been stupid, but going into this year, I'm going to bet by the end of the year that I could make a cogent argument. I'd probably lose it, but I could make a cogent argument that 2025 has as many good films as 39 did. And everybody knows, 39 was the decade for
I
great
will
films.
have to get back to you because you're going to add Sinners on that list as your first
Yeah, you
one.
have Sinners on that list, which is, unfortunately, have Minecraft as the biggest grossing movie of the year
No, I
so
don't
far. But
care. There's always a big grossing film that,
right. But yeah,
it's the
there's
way
there's
it
always
goes.
there's always great films. It's like I'm not even tracking them right now, but there's a lot of really great independent film. I just saw I liked The Phoenician Scheme, which is very much, a Wes Anderson film, but it was a lot of fun. I'm not a big horror film. I'm working with a director who's shooting his first horror feature coming up in a couple months and going to movies with him. So I go see a lot of horrors. Was it Bring Her Back? Just saw that, which is from the same guy who did Talk to Me. Find his stuff interesting. There's a lot, especially early in the year, man. People who says that they're not releasing anything interesting that's any good. I'm like, are you guys not paying any attention?
They
There's
don't.
always,
They really
yeah.
don't. I watch a ton of film with you. Okay, I normally have one more question, but I know you have a long answer, so I'm not giving you any more questions. So
Okay, so
we're gonna wrap this up, which is
perfect.
great. Tell everybody where they can find your projects before I let you
Uh,
go.
yeah, you can find if you look up my name, Calix, with the middle name Louis Reneau on Tubi, you'll find 3 of my 5 projects, including the dumbest movie ever made in the dumbest way possible. A feature film I did for $800 cash, and it's out there. I'm really proud of it.
Nothing wrong with
Um,
that. It's good.
yeah,
Who cares?
then you can find them on Tubi. I have my unscripted show, Container Masters, that I help produce is on Tubi. Tubi is a good place to start. There's stuff all over Amazon. I've got at least half a dozen features out there, like I said. So
Excellent.
poke around. Go on
Thank
IMDb. You'll
you.
see the names. And yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having
Okay.
me. And
Bye bye.
bye bye.